You're with us here on a fresh new edition of Closing Bell. We're coming to you from the CNBC-TV18 News studios. This is, of course, as I said, Closing Bells, guys. Hi, afternoon, and I hope that we have an audience today. Right?
I think people will multitask. It's going to be two screens. We will have to live with that because the other screen is all about the boys in blue, and they're off to such a flying start.
Well, that's right. It's a good day, right? The Indian markets are doing well. The men in blue as well have started off well. And I'll tell you what, when we come back tomorrow morning, we'll be celebrating both the aspects. One is we're likely to end with a double century. And maybe one of the boys go ahead and score a double century themselves. 372, that's the target for today is what I'm saying.
Why
372?
That's just the number I put out there.
Well, why not, right? I mean,
why not?
All right, well, things are looking good. I think, there's a modest way of putting things. Things are looking great, actually. 200 plus points, as we've been discussing. And just take a look at what's going on, right? I mean, it's a global move, first of all. Most indices, you look at Asia, you look at Europe, etc., gains range between 0.5%, 0.75%, all the way to about 1.5%. In some cases, all the way up to 2% as well. So it's not as if the market here is doing something exceptional or something which other parts of the market or other large markets are not doing. So that's point number one. The Nifty, with this single-day move, is already at levels we were talking about in the morning, which is the 19,693. That's the exact number, the 61.8% retracement. I've rounded that out to 19,700. So, we're almost there, right? 40-odd points more, and that's also, by the way, the previous swing high, significant swing high. Above that, I mean, it's essentially line of sight to the new, to a new all-time high. The Nifty Bank will come up on your screen, something similar. The 61.8 there is about 1% away, I think. The number there is 44,700. And we're at about 44,700. We're at about 44,220. Yes, so just under 1% away. The small cap index, right, that continues to power on, and that is at a fresh new all-time high, a full 1.33% gain, and it's going to be another closing high for the Nifty small cap, and of course, a all-time intraday high as well on that part of the market. Market breadth is solid. So really nothing to complain. Surabhi.
Oh, absolutely, Prashant. And I was looking at the market, but it's been a very diverse move. This is not about 2 or 3 stocks on the Nifty alone, right? Yeah. In fact, most sectors are performing. Banks are doing well. IT is doing well. On the Nifty, if you take a look at it, barring the Bajaj twins, Bajaj Finance and Finserv, and maybe an IndusInd Bank, in which case it's more of a sell-on news because we've got the index inclusion now announcement out. So there's a bit of a sell-on news that's playing out in these two. The Bajaj twins on the financial services side. Barring these 2 or 3 stocks, everything else is actually positive on the Nifty. Metals are leading it from the front, and that's been the story right from the morning. But the mystery mover really has been Eicher Motors in top gear, revved up and how, with a gain of about 5%. And then after that, you have, of course, metals, as I said, strong China data. So your Hindalco, Tata Steel, most of them are up and about. And IT has come out all guns blazing as well. TCS, Wipro, Infosys. Most of these stocks have retained their gains right from the morning. And that is the operative part of today's market action, that the gains have been held on to.
Well, that's right. I'll be interested to see whether or not there is any kind of clarity that emerges on this Bajaj Finserv and Bajaj Finance stocks, because both of them have seen a sharp downtick. Don't know what's going on there, but I'm sure our team is checking to see whether or not there is some kind of clarification with regard, because the stock price fall is quite volatile. I mean, just take a look at that. Sharp decline is what we have seen. Another one that's moved lower is Honeywell. The numbers were far from impressive. And that stock, volumes are not very, very high. But that one as well has moved to the low point of the day. But one pocket of the market that continues to do well is real estate theme. And Oberoi Realty, the stock is up close to around 5%. It spiked to the high point of the day as we speak. So you need to keep an eye out on some of these real estate themes, whether or not they have more to go out there. So that one as well should come up for you on the screen. How do you position yourself, though, for the final 60 minutes? Well, in terms of the match action, it's looking good because we're going at a run rate of close to around 10 runs per over. We're 60 for no loss. So good going out there. But Mitesh joins us to help us out with the trade on that front. Hi, Mitesh. Good afternoon. No worries. I'll tell you about the score. You tell me about the trade on the Nifty. What do you do? I mean, 200, 210 points higher. We started off, to be fair, 180 points odd higher. So what do you do? Pack your bags, or there's more to go on the upside? So you rather trail your stop loss. As you mentioned in the morning, I think 19,580 is that trailing stop loss. Go ahead.
Afternoon, Nigel. I think, while the early morning view was to trail the stop loss, I think the afternoon view on the 11 o'clock segment was to add on to the long positions, because the gap down, the gap up, and then the pullback which happened was immediately bought into. So I think this is a market which is clearly in the short term, displaying good strength. And I think now we can look at targets of around 19,830, 850, which is what my eventual target for this rally is. So I think that's where we are heading. And the stop loss now can be trailed to about 19,560 on the spot. Having said that, I think Subhi was mentioning about IT and, broad participation coming in. I've got two index heavyweights as buy calls right now. Reliance and ITC, I think, are both showing signs of some kind of an upward traction. So Reliance Industries is a buy with a stop at 23.30 for targets of 23.95. And ITC, after a long time, has come on the buy list. It seems to have completed a correction. Would recommend a buy here with a stop below 436 for targets of 452.
Okay, all right, Mitesh, we leave it there. Thank you very much, good getting that perspective, good getting those trades as well from you. Now, Siemens India is set to see an inter-promoter transfer of 18% stake from Siemens Energy to Siemens AG, a move likely to be followed by the hive-off of the India energy business to Siemens Energy. This is something which is going to be interesting to watch as it plays out. The stock has seen a fair bit of up and down and up actually, more than up and down. Speaking to CNBC, Siemens Energy CEO Christian Bruch spoke on his outlook for the operations in India going forward. Just want to play out a small soundbite and then we'll get your opinion on this story.
First of all, keep in mind this India setup was driven when we did the spin-off by administrative restrictions. So we knew that at one point in time we need to untangle the Siemens AG and Siemens Energy business in India. For both of us, India is a super important market and we want to be very prominent present there. India is not only important for us because of the Indian business, but also helping global businesses to be executed. And in that regard, this agreement accelerates this separation of the two businesses, so Siemens AG and Siemens Energy. It prepones certain things and really starts this process over. It will still be a multi-year process of completely untangling it. But this is what it's all about, and it doesn't change the way on how we operate our business in India, and that we will also continue to drive growth in India from our side, because it is for us an extremely important future market.
Oh.
All right, that's basically the Siemens management. Renu Baid is with us, Senior Vice President, Research at IIFL Institutional Equities. Renu, good to have you with us here. Thank you very much for your time. What are the implications here in India, Renu, if you're a Siemens shareholder?
Well, from the near term, no implications because business will continue as it has been. But from a longer term perspective, it's positive development that the energy business, which technically from the group level was demerged a few years back, in India also it will be demerged and listed separately as a part of the current scheme of arrangements which have been decided upon. So just the way we saw a few years back, ABB demerged the power grid business, and today you have Hitachi Energy and ABB listed separately, both independently operating and no impact on the businesses. Similar would be the case with Siemens, where their gas and power or the energy business will be demerged and listed separately, and the rest of the other businesses will continue as Siemens Limited within the listed entity.
Okay. All right. So, you're viewing this deal positively, Renu. Thanks so much for joining in. But there are a couple of unanswered questions, right? So what more clarity are you waiting for from the management?
Clarity, I think, since the announcement has come, they have indicatively mentioned December 25 as timelines. So I think from that perspective, it takes time to create those legal structures and keep it prepared. I think incrementally the details would be that once the Siemens energy business is listed separately, we'll have to see how the parent is able to increase the shareholding to majority level, which today, due to the financial crunch, they had to reduce their holding to sub 10% in the listed arm after the current block is executed. So I think that is something that we will have to look forward in terms of how those transactions will be treated. Guess they will happen post demerger, and the company in the press release have mentioned that they have agreed upon some mechanism to increase the shareholding thereafter. But the timelines may be a bit uncertain. The group has mentioned a 5-year timeline over which Siemens will get back its or will regain its majority shareholding back. So how will that happen? Those things will eventually happen over a medium-term perspective.
Okay. Renu, so a big picture question. Siemens, the stock itself has done about a 24-25% move in the last 1 year, right? Which is still fine compared to the kind of absolute blowout moves that we've seen in the mid-cap market. So, number one, in terms of valuation, if someone is to buy now, how would you sort of look at it? What is your own current target price? Tell us that. And B, if someone is to take a play on capital goods industrials in their portfolio, then would you advise them buying Siemens now as it goes through this demerger and then, a separate listing of the energy business? Do you see that being a trigger for further value creation and unlocking?
There would be value creation and unlocking, but I think the timelines are still quite some time away. So I don't see this event having an immediate impact on the valuation multiples. And typically during these demergers, more of SOTP-driven valuations try to play out. The energy business would be at a notch lower valuations compared to the Siemens valuations that it's trading today, 50 times plus. So to that extent, we'll have to see how the valuations and the net worths of these companies lined up. If you look from the current price perspective, then clearly stock is pretty expensively priced on. If we see September 24, it's about almost 64, 65 times 1 year forward. It's about 55 times 1 year forward. So from the current price levels, we are a bit cautious on ABB Siemens, both for fresh additions and buys. But on the cap good side, we continue to like L&T, we like Cummins as better picks on valuations and the margin of safety which is there. Siemens target price, 1 year forward target price is about close to 39.73 rupees, which is inclusive of the CNS and all the other businesses combined. So since the demerger timelines are some time away, I think that value unlocking event will play out probably a year down the line, not immediate in the near term.
Okay. All right, Renu, thank you very much for that. Appreciate your thoughts on this, as well as some advice on how to approach the stock, considering it's going to go through all of these events now. Thanks for joining in. Well, let's take the conversation forward. Prakash Devan is with us now. Prakash, appreciate you being with us. I know a lot of people will be glued to their screens, but thank you. We have a market to attend to as well. Siemens, what thoughts? You just heard Renu there. Same question to you. How would you look at it? What's the advice?
Good afternoon, Survi. So I think it's more of a non-event, but there's a salience to this. The silver lining is this block that the Suzlon Energy, the Siemens Energy people have sold out would actually have been, difficult to absorb in the market. So it's good that it's an interstate promoter transfer and this overhang of sorts is gone. The reason why Siemens Energy was struggling was globally they've been facing a lot of rough winds. In India, things have been far better for them. And they still kind of could get out of this in a way which is respectable and not dilutive. So if Siemens AG is buying that out, at least it's not out in the market. So that's an overhang that goes. And that's why probably the market is also responding to it with a mild, uptick. It's not something which is a celebratory thing. The second thing that's going to happen after this demerger is that the energy business will start getting valued because of the pace of growth also being quite attractive out there. All this while, energy was dragging the entire Siemens India piece. Now, this demerger will actually help unlock some value, different vectors, different rate of growth, and different return ratios will get established. So the market probably will have an option to do all of that. It's exactly what she mentioned about the ABB Hitachi event. So you'll have to wait for that. It's still some time away. But the fact that they mentioned 2025 December is quite soon from what the market was expecting this to happen. So they're taking quick steps, which is nice. But I don't think there's any great value just on the basis of what's going to happen now. Because whatever has happened is already priced into at these 3,500 zones.
Okay, all right. Hi, Prakash. Good afternoon. India's lost a wicket and Rohit Sharma is down. But anyways, we need to focus on the markets. And one wicket that's fallen, so to say, is Bajaj Finance. That stock has moved sharply low. Anything you've heard? And what do you make of the stock at these prices?
Good afternoon, Nigel. So, Bajaj Finance has been disappointing. Bajaj Finserv, Bajaj Finance, both of them are behaving in a way which is fairly, not in consonance with the market mood today. I have no particular input in terms of where, why, what has happened, what's leading to this. But what I can tell you is that Bajaj Finance, the way, last quarterly numbers, post that numbers, the behavior was very clearly giving you an indication that, all these large NBFCs, a couple of quarters down the line are the ones, that's the time of reckoning that will start. Prashant also mentioned this in one of the interviews that he is having with some NBFCs, that this is something which could start getting to be worrisome. This area of personal loans is something which could start getting a bit difficult or challenging after 2 quarters. So till then things look okay, but probably the market has started sensing a better opportunity elsewhere, and there could be some exits. Remember, exits in Bajaj Finance are always going to be very rewarding for whoever does, for people who've been holding it for a long time, and they're chunky, right? So it will have this kind of an impact, and it's very difficult for this kind of a selling to be absorbed if there were to be exits. So I don't know what's happening otherwise, but from a screen perspective, I think that's what it's telling you, that there is some significant selling that's not able to absorb at the same levels.
Okay, got that on Bajaj Finance. India's just been delivered a lifeline. Virat Kohli lives to fight another ball, another over. We'll take a break on that note. Stay on, Prakash. Lots more questions for you in the market as well. Back in just a moment. Also, we'll be in conversation with Gautam Sinha Roy, Executive Vice President and Fund Manager at ICICI Prudential Life Insurance in just a bit from now. So stay tuned for that as well. Welcome back here with us on Closing Bell, and we're continuing to see that move of 200 plus points remain on the Nifty. One stock that's been a shining star in trade today is Manappuram Finance, and that's all thanks to numbers. Second quarter looked pretty good, pretty fine for the lender. We have Abhishek joining in with the fine print once again. Abhishek, just run us through, because the markets loved every bit of what they've seen from Manappuram this quarter.
Well, for Q2 FY24, Manappuram's PNL has beaten our poll, and that is thanks to the non-gold portfolio, which has performed really strong. So the AUM growth is at 27% YOY and about 5% sequentially. However, the gold loan share has continued to decline, now at 53.4% when compared to 62.6% in the same quarter last year and about 55.6% in the previous quarter. So the non-gold AUM growth has been strong, and its share in the overall AUM has increased to 46.6% when compared to 37.5% in the same quarter last year and about 44.5% in the previous quarter. So the yields are super impressive for second quarter in a row, and calculation shows that net interest margin has expanded by 21 basis point quarter on quarter. Analysts were working with a number of 5 to 10 basis point improvement in net interest margin. Other income largely flat on a YOY basis. The PAT has come in at 561 crore. We were working with a number of 517 crore. So it's a beat of about 8.5% on PAT as well. We have brokerages who have written on the stock. So BofA Securities has written on Manappuram. They have a buy recommendation, a target price of 182 per share. They say that Manappuram trades at about price to book value of 0.94 FY25, which is lower when compared to the 5-year average of about 1.4 times. So they believe that there is undervalue in the strong non-gold growth that you are seeing and in the MFI yields, which can augur well for the lender. We have Morgan Stanley who has written on Manappuram as well. They have an overweight rating, and the target price has been increased to 200 from 183 that they had earlier. They see upside risk to earnings as well as valuations of Manappuram. Back to you.
Okay, got that. Abhishek, thank you very much. Let's take this to Prakash. Prakash, what do you think? Very different performance. I remember Muthoot was a bit of a disappointment this quarter. Manappuram has been really firing on all cylinders. Any interest in these financiers, gold financiers, though Manappuram now is, of course, trying to go well beyond gold?
Yeah, so, it's interesting that the gold financiers are wanting to get out of that and do other things. And the banks, which did all the other things, have also got into gold financing. So I would look for the latter because that's a far more de-risk kind of an opportunity. Gold financing has come of age thanks to the effort put in by some of these companies in the beginning. But now, it's very easy for a bank to kind of get into that. All they need to do is set up a vaulting system, set up a valuation metrics, and they get ready to go. And look at what Catholic Syrian Bank, it's a very small bank, but has a very similar footprint in the south where there is a lot of interest in this product. They've done so well in that. Even SBI has been trying to talk about, it's given numbers which are very encouraging. So I would believe instead of buying a gold financing company, which is always a it's like a unipolar secular story. You could go wrong. It's binary in outcomes. Look at a bank. That's probably a better way to do it. Of course, Manappuram has done quite a bit in terms of being able to smartly become much healthier on the balance sheet, and that's showing now. But I would prefer a bank, a smaller bank like CSB, if I had to play that.
CSB, yeah, indeed, they've grown their book quite well out there. Prakash, final question before we let you go. Zomato, that one's come back well. The recent numbers as well looked quite good. The stock has done fairly good from the recent lows. But what's your take? As we speak, the stock actually has moved to the low point of the day. But at 120 rupees, what do you think?
I think the risk reward is definitely turned far, far more favorable than what it was, even when the price was low. Yeah. So this is one situation where you don't mind paying a slightly elevated price because the business model is morphed into something which is distinctly going to be profitable. It's just that they now need to be consistent, Nigel. What's happening is, if you look at some of the things that they do, they keep on introducing and reintroducing a lot of things, which is actually leading to a little bit of a confusion as far as the consumer experience is concerned. And I know of a lot of people who want simpler things, right? So this is exactly what Ola did wrong, where Uber continued to do well. So between Swiggy and Zomato, I think they just need to keep their eye on the ball in terms of the profitability and not doing too much to confuse people from a expansion perspective. So if they are able to do that, the numbers will start showing in their earnings. I don't think there's too much to worry about in terms of adjustments that they had to make in the previous 4 quarters. We've seen a lot of hue and cry about that. But the path to profitability probably seems to be far more distinctly visible than ever before.
Okay, Prakash, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much for joining us, and it's always great having you with us here. We'll leave you to catch that match, which is on. Appreciate it.
Good luck to you.
Well, good luck to us, I guess. Right? JP Associates is the other one we want to talk about. Well, there was a release which came out from Jayaprakash yesterday, which said that they've sealed what is a settlement with ICICI Bank. ICICI Bank is one of the lead creditors with Jayaprakash. This particular account with banks has been a bit of an issue for a long time now. But is it really a settlement? Markets got very excited. I mean, full settlement with ICICI Bank. Is it a full settlement with ICICI Bank? Actually, it's not. Ritu, spoke to a variety of her banking sources across the board, not just ICICI, but other large bankers as well. And this is what she found. Ritu, take it away.
Well, Jayaprakash Associates, in an exchange disclosure, has said that it is going to transfer 18.93 crore shares, which amounts to about 7.71% equity stake in the company, to its lender, ICICI Bank, as part of a settlement agreement to reduce its debt, and that the final value of these shares will be arrived on the basis of the closing price at NSE on the day prior to the actual transfer. Now, we spoke to our sources in the banking industry, and let me clarify that JP Associates had pledged these shares to ICICI Bank for the loans that it took, and it is merely now transferring them to ICICI Bank. And at the current market price of about 20 a share, this will amount to 380 odd crore rupees of recovery that ICICI Bank will be able to make, or essentially the bank will reduce this amount from its total exposure to JP Associates to the extent of the value of the shares that are transferred as per the settlement terms. Now, ICICI Bank, we understand, has about 3,000 crores of exposure to JP Associates, which will come down accordingly. Now, beyond this, there's no other settlement as of now. In fact, other major lenders to the company, including the likes of State Bank of India, we understand, are not in favor of any settlement with the company outside the NCLT-driven corporate insolvency resolution process. The lenders that we spoke to said that the RBI directive in the matter is very clear, and IBC is the only route they're willing to consider. So talks of any settlement are not likely to be entertained by the lenders. Remember, JP Associates owes a debt of 29,200 odd crores, including interest overdues, to 22 lenders led by ICICI Bank, State Bank of India, IDBI Bank, and others. The account has already been declared an NPA in the past, and now it has been fully provided for by all of these banks.
Okay, well, it is not a full settlement, and there are other bankers like SBI, etc., who still are saying that we will want to take what the RBI is telling us to do, which is take the account through NCLT. But stock's done very, very well, and I think almost at 30 rupees now. So a phenomenal run. Gautam Sinha Roy is now joining us, Executive Vice President and Fund Manager at ICICI Prudential Life Insurance. He's with us to take some questions. Gautam, good to have you with us here. Thank you very much. Just a quick sort of broader sense on how you're looking at it. Many fund managers we spoke to lately were kind of the view that maybe we get a bit of a consolidation, we get perhaps some time correction, preference for large caps over small caps, mid caps. But just look at today's market, and it's kind of symptomatic of with the kind of markets we've had, which is just an up and up kind of market, with mid and small caps actually leading and large cap actually continuing to lag. Is it possible, Gautam, that we continue to remain in this kind of an environment for some time to come?
Hi, good afternoon. I think you're absolutely right, Prashant. There is a dichotomy. But, when you really delve deeper, you see the earnings story in India, the way it's panning out. It's, at least I have not seen in the last couple of decades that I have been investing in India, this kind of broad-based and sustained earnings trajectory. You cut the earnings of the last quarter any way you like, right? Be it by market cap, be it sectorally. I mean, it's a very strong earnings trajectory, probably close to 30% broad-based earnings growth, closer to 20% EBITDA growth. And, within that, the only clear sign is the domestic cyclicals are delivering growth, be it banks, auto, real estate, and all. And the global cyclicals, most importantly, IT, and to a much lesser extent, I would say chemicals are not doing that well. So that is the story of India. And honestly, is it wise to fight this earnings? Probably not, because as long as the earnings trajectory is so good, and I'm told this is the best in the world, right? And by a margin. So if that's the case, then there's no point fighting it too much. Valuations, we know, can get overstressed in the short and medium term. So that is not something that really matters so much in the short term. But of course, we should not forget valuations. We should not forget the fact that on the mid and small cap side, there are pockets where valuations are rich. And if you look at Nifty valuation, they are probably trading at close to 5-year averages. So valuation from that perspective doesn't look like a concern. The third angle is liquidity, the domestic flows that have built up momentum through the different channels that are there. That's very strong. And I think given the conditions, the only advice I can give investors is to continue doing the regular investing through mutual funds or ULIP the way they are doing, the structured regular investment. Maybe if they want to go for a bigger lump sum amount, they can wait for a correction. But one has to, respect the earnings momentum that India is seeing.
No, that's a fair point, and it's one that's well taken. Gautam, hi, season's greetings to you, Surabhi here. Since you mentioned that obviously valuations are a bigger concern, I think in the mid-cap market specifically, where sectors and stocks have really run up. Now, real estate is one such pocket. I mean, even today, the Nifty Realty Index is the best performing index of the day. And that's been the case for the last many weeks and months as well. What's your view on this sector? Would you look at any fresh allocations, and how do you find valuations here?
During the days of COVID, some astute India strategists called out for a real estate cycle to begin. And this was after 8 to 9 years of lull in Indian real estate. And see, this is a very long cycle business. Many things have fallen in place, most importantly, RERA probably. And if this is probably the third year into the cycle, and when you look at the projected demand and the projected supply, you don't see any cause of concern. Interest rates are still on the higher side, but we are at the fag end of the rate hike cycle, so probably rates come down next year. I don't see any causes of concern there. In fact, I would think that there could be opportunities in some of the smaller developers which have good balance sheet and good corporate governance practices to really scale up their businesses in this run. Because real estate cycle, if it sustains for another few years, that would mean that the biggest delta will happen in so many of these companies. So again, another sector, domestic cyclical, which has come back ferociously. And while the initial up move might look to be too ferocious, but if it's just midway or less than midway through the cycle, then we have ample opportunity to make a lot of money there.
All right. Hi, Gautam. Good afternoon. Nigel on this side, and good to see you. And it's a good point on real estate. What about banks and financials? If I look at the performance year to date itself, banks and financials have underperformed. And I'll tell you what, earnings over there have been good. And they could be better than the rest of the market as well for the rest of this year. Is it time now for banks and financials to perform in line or outperform what the Nifty does?
Yes, for sure. You should continue nibbling into the banks and finances. And for the reason that you mentioned, Nigel, that clearly the earnings cycle is favorable there. There have been concerns. So I'll broadly highlight the two concerns. One is the NIM cycle. Last year we had an abnormal increase in NIMs. Now that is sort of correcting itself. So people are wary of some of these banks where the NIM correction is happening in a sharp way. We have another large bank where some of the merger-related issues are playing out. So, these are two specific factors because of which some of the larger banks are affected. But if you look at a broad-based universe of banks and include some of the NBFCs there, they are doing fine, even as stocks, and definitely so as companies. So again, another sector where the larger names will probably continue to give you opportunity for the next couple of quarters as some of these technical factors of NIM and other issues play out. But definitely, if you're betting on the India story, that's the best way to play from a 3-year perspective, simply because A, all these banks are past their credit cycle issues. B, we also have an opportunity of re-leveraging up of the corporate balance sheet, which is one of the most deleveraged corporate India balance sheet we have seen in a very long time. So these two are very potent forces that are going to play out over the next 3 years. Of course, when we talk about the future, we assume certain things, but we do not see any risk to this hypothesis as of now.
Okay, got that. Just quickly highlighting what else is going on, because there is a lot going on, and I think makes sense to just highlight some of the stuff, right? Maybe if you can pull these intradays up. So I should, of course, we've highlighted. Manappuram is another one which we've been highlighting since the morning. But look at something like an Angel One, 5.5% higher. That'll come up on your screen. There is Gabriel India, which is up about 12%. Gabriel is at about 410. Should be up in a bit. Phoenix Limited, 6% gain. These got humongous volumes, all these names. Chennai Petro is up about 8% or so. So stocks at about 632. There is Welspun India, which is up 6.5%. Oberoi Realty is up about 5.5 odd percent. Just going down the list with volume-led gainers. Emphasis is up 5.5%. There is Network 18, which is up 11%. Stocks at about 84. That, of course, is associated with a company that sort of runs the news network you're watching. We got Motilal Oswal Financial Services at 1,200. Stocks up 6%. TV18 Broadcast, again, a related company, 6%, 6.5% higher. Nesco is up about 6.5%. And I've barely scratched the surface with these 7-8 names, because the list of big volume-led gainers is quite a bit longer. Bikaji should perhaps come up on your screen, 5.5% there. There is Dodla Dairy, which is up 9%. Ahluwalia Contractors, 12% gain right now. DCX India, that is up, I think, some 10% or so. So there is enough and more down the list which is buzzing around. Gautam, have you put money in any recently listed companies? We had this Protein which got listed. I mean, the NSDL company, which does a fair bit of backend for the digital public infrastructure for Aadhaar, etc. I don't know if you've looked at that closely. Seems to be an interesting space, and those are the kind of companies which also have done very well. Tech, digital. Any thoughts at all?
Yeah, absolutely, Prashant. What is happening, another sub-trend in the mega trend called India that's playing out, is the digitalization of especially of the financial services economy. And there are multiple small companies which are enablers of this digitalization, which sort of help customers migrate from the physical to the digital, to put it very simply. And because of the growth in financial savings in equities and related instruments, and the other parts, which is essentially payments, right, where a lot of new stuff is happening, the whole Aadhaar stack, you are getting multiple of such companies, smaller companies which are benefiting, have recently come and IPO themselves. So these are definitely opportunities one should evaluate. Of course, I'm not recommending a name here. I'm just saying as a trend, this is an important trend that's playing out in India and will continue for the next coming few years. And one needs to evaluate companies which are based on this trend.
Okay, that's a take on some of these ones. Finally, just very quickly before we let you go, leave us with your idea. I mean, we're talking mid-caps, small caps. There's been quite a tremendous rally, but which would be, say, that one pocket or two pocket that you're still convinced about with respect to growth, and prices haven't run away too much?
Well, one thing I have to point out, Surbhi, is, when I talked about the broad basing of earnings, mid caps and small caps, especially very, very noticeable there. Not only the strength in the earnings of mid and small caps, but the broad basing, the number of sectors that have come up, and especially in the post-COVID world where we are, and many people expected that, this is a post-COVID flare-up and things will settle down, like sectors like hotel and transport, for example, or some of them have. For example, consumer discretionary broadly is one sector where things are much more cooler now, including both the consumer discretionary product as well as services like QSR. But, it's easier to name a few sectors which are not doing that well. It's more difficult to say these are the only sectors that it's very broad-based, right from real estate to anything related to real estate like hotels, transportation, another sector, I would say. Some of the old darlings like chemicals are not doing that well. Hospitals are doing very well. And there are a multitude of such small sectors. We talked about some of the financial enablement plays, some of the e-commerce plays have done well. there were a lot of people were circumspect about those business models, and now we are seeing profitability come into play. So yeah, it's a stock pickers market, and there's plentiful of opportunity out there. In fact, from portfolio perspective, you also should heed that fact that there is a broad basing of earnings, and probably makes sense to have a more broad-based portfolio rather than have a very concentrated one in these kind of markets, because you don't want to miss out on large pockets of opportunity.
Okay, all right, got that, Gautam. We'll let you go on that note. Thank you very much for joining in today. You have a good rest of the day. We'll take a break on that note. On the other side, as always, a check on all that's happening in dealing rooms today, beyond, of course, the cricket game that's on. Nimesh will join in with the latest, and, of course, some final trading calls coming up with Nitesh as well. How should we look at this precious yellow metal called gold?
It's like buying a Porsche or an expensive car. Do it for the pleasure of owning it. And I would say this for anything, including property. If I'm buying gold, I should buy SGB.
Jewelry is not something that you just buy for an investment purpose, but rather it's something that you do to enhance your personality. We are trying to, through our marketing campaigns and all, teach people that jewelry is actually the investment, the safest investment.
Well, it's a good trading session. You know, you're getting into the final 20 minutes and the Nifty is holding well in the green. The Nifty Bank is doing a relative underperformance, but keep in mind that today it's playing out weekly expiry as well. So some of those contracts will expire today. So that could be one of the reasons out there. But it's time for our special segment, D Street Chatter. Nimesh is in fine form. He's all set for the game. and he's dressed appropriately as well. Nimesh, Chak De India. Tell us what you're picking up.
I'm just waiting for this, my link to get over and rush for the match. So, again, I think today's rally is largely on back of global risk concept. That's playing up and that's helping Indian markets as well. But now it's backed by FI buying as well. So today, there is, again, my sense is there is a market at close basket buying. Long list of stocks is what I understand at a leading FI desk. So probably you'll see a decent number from the FIs in today's trade. I guess from a technical perspective, above 19,550, you could see a further short covering rally. So watch out for that. We're trading above those levels, so that momentum can continue. And while the momentum in the mid cap continues, today is a day for the real estates to do well. So a lot of real estate stocks are buzzing in trade and on good volumes. So clearly the traction seems to be on the high beta names, and that's how the market seems to be. But today, for a change, I understand the rally is supported by FI buying as well.
Nimish, I know you're waiting to run, but we'll go. We got 4-5 more questions with you today.
Right till 3:30.
It's a nice 10-minute segment, Nimish, today.
I'm happy to do that, Prashant. Because again, after the first match, what I saw in Ahmedabad, I've realized the idea is to go after 30-35 hours and then enjoy the evening, because that's how normally the matches have turned out to be quite good. So
I know the sun is down, it's cooler, I think, and all of that matters.
I can look at Nimesh's face and say, Prashant, you're delaying him. Gill is going to score that century. He wants to be there at the stadium. When Gill raises his bat,
It's a very important segment. Let's take it seriously, guys. 10 minutes. Stick with it.
Absolutely. I'm fine.
More stocks.
Nimish, so what are you picking up?
So, Prashant, in terms of individual names, the first stock is Protein. The new listing, in 2 days, the stock is up 30%. Today, the stock is locked at 20% upper circuit, big volumes as well. And I understand in today's trade, the domestic PMS is an active buyer, and hence a big move in that stock. So that's the first one. The second stock is Oberoi Realty. I spoke about real estate stocks buzzing in trade. Oberoi stands out largely on back of very strong buy flows. And also I understand the street is now anticipating the launch of the Thana project very soon. So that's a big trigger for Oberoi going forward. The third stock is Federal Bank. Marginally under pressure today, but for the last couple of days, there is strong institutional buying happening in that stock. Even in today's trade, the volumes are on the higher side. So expect high delivery volumes, and looks like some large fund seems to be quite active buyer in Federal Bank. And the last one is Shriram Finance. Similar to what the sense in Federal Bank, even in Shriram Finance, there are very strong buy flows. So expect high delivery volumes. And this is one stock where I understand a leading long only fund is an active buyer.
Nimish, so what else should we talk about?
Let's break down each of these companies.
Nimesh is thinking I should not have told these guys that I'm waiting to run.
Absolutely fine, Prashant. In fact, you know what, Prashant, we spoke about some unheard names, right? You spoke about some stock which you've not heard of, but a lot of action there. So you ask and I'll respond.
Guys, come on. Let him be. The poor man is smiling away through it all, through the grilling.
We won't do that. We won't do that to you, Nimesh. Thank you very much for joining us. Enjoy and cheer for all of us there, and report back when you join us next. Thanks very much, Nimesh.
Thank you, Prashant.
All right. Well, let's move on and take a look at what else is happening, right? I mean, markets are doing fine. So we've got about 230 points. Mitesh is back with us with short-term trading ideas, what to buy or sell today for a reverse trade tomorrow. Mitesh, take it away.
So, Prashant, I have one BTST call that's on Tata Motors. I think very good candlestick action over here. So, BTST here with the stop at 668 for targets of 680. And another Tata Group company that's Tata Communication is on the selling side, or STBT trade, which I would recommend selling with a very tight stop at 1696 and a target of around 1660.
Okay, Mitesh, got that. Thank you very much. We will also now let Mitesh be and let him go and enjoy that game as well. India's continuing to chug along. In fact, since we're on that subject, we have been on that subject throughout. Let's actually get to some of our colleagues who are trying to get us snippets of the action. By the way, we've still just one wicket down, touch wood, fingers crossed. Let this run continue. We have Danish now joining in. I don't think he quite managed to get into the Wankhede, but he's somewhere close by to try and get a sense of the action. Danish, tell us what's going on.
Well, India is off to a solid start in the first semi-final. We saw Captain Rohit Sharma starting the match on a very positive note. However, he fell short of his half century. But then on the other end, we are seeing that Shubman Gill and Virat Kohli are hitting sixes and fours all around. So right now, I am at a sports and gaming lounge called Glued Reloaded. And as you can see behind me, despite being a Wednesday, despite being a midday, we are seeing that a lot of crowd has come in here to watch India play in the first semi-final. And the many fans that are sitting over here, the atmosphere here is completely buzzing. People are quite excited. Let's try talking to a few fans. What do they feel about this match? Sir, India is playing its first semi-final against New Zealand. We are a solid start. What is your anticipation for the rest of the game? How much more do you want to see? How much more score do you want to see on the board?
Probably more than 300. We should be looking at 325, 350, somewhere between that.
So you're sure that India will take an edge over New Zealand in the first semi-final and qualify for the final?
Definitely, for sure, 100%.
Right. So you're seeing that the crowd is completely excited right now, and the team is playing really well. We can try talking to a few more fans right now that are sitting over here. Ma'am, you're here on you're watching the first semi-final. How excited are you seeing India play on the home ground and that will?
Yeah, I feel so much excitement right now, and the screen is too big, and the audience and everything cheering for it. It's amazing.
It's just so thrilling. I'm just waiting for Kohli to do a century. So then we'll all be satisfied that we're going to win. But just too intense. The game is too intense right now.
Right. So here it is. You can see that the crowd has started to really build up over here as well. And people are quite excited and they're really hopeful that India will take an edge over New Zealand and qualify for the finals.
Okay, Danish, thank you so much. Sorry, my bad. I mean, for some reason, I thought you'd flown down all the way to Mumbai to get us in action from one of the Mumbai places, but that's NCR for you. Thank you very much. I'm sure it's going to pick up steam as the evening progresses. From Noida, let's move all the way back home here, Mumbai. And we have Yisha now joining in. She's actually very close by to the venue. Yisha, you're somewhere close to Wankhede, aren't you? What's happening?
Absolutely. In fact, I am right across the street of Wankhede. I am at Marine Drives, and right behind me is Wankhede Stadium. In fact, early since this morning, ever since we've been here, we've seen a lot of fans who've gathered to get a glimpse of their favorite cricketer. Apart from that, there have been various fans who've already gotten in. Some of whom are still waiting out. We can in fact see some of these fans are hoping that India wins the World Cup again. Of course, this reminds us of the 2011 World Cup when at Wankhede, India had lifted the cup, and then all the way from here, we in fact hear cricketers speaking about how all the way from here, it's just 500 meters away where their hotel is, and they were given a grand welcome. There was something very similar that took place this morning when Team India was entering Wankhede. And at this very place, at Marine Drive, we are seeing a lot of fans who've gathered. In fact, they're waiting here all the way to either catch the ball that their favorite cricketer would hit a six with, or they're hoping and giving messages to their favorite cricketer. Sorry. आप यहाँ पे ये पोस्टर लगा के आए हैं. अब बताइए आप कौन से क्रिकेटर को मैसेज देना चाहते हैं?
मैं रोहित शर्मा जी को.
आप रोहित शर्मा आपके फेवरेट है? लेकिन आज जो हुआ हमने देखा कि उनका हाफ सेंचुरी नहीं हो पाई. तो इन जनरल वो जो कैप्टन है हमारे इसके, तो टीम इंडिया को क्या मैसेज देंगे?
नहीं, वो कोई बात नहीं, अच्छी पारी खेली है और न्यूजीलैंड के लिए तो 200 रन ही काफी है.
एक टफ मैच होती है इंडिया वर्सेस इंग्लैंड की जब बात करें. जब इंडिया और न्यूजीलैंड की बात करें, इंडिया वर्सेस न्यूजीलैंड की पारी है वो काफी डिफिकल्ट होती है. पिछली बार हम देखा 2019 का जब वर्ल्ड कप था तो इंडिया न्यूजीलैंड के साथ नॉकआउट स्टेज पे बाहर हो चुकी थी. आप बताइए कि इस बार क्योंकि न्यूजीलैंड सामने है तो क्या लगता है? अभी रन रेट तो हमारा काफी अच्छा है, 7 के ऊपर का रन रेट है, तो क्या लगता है कितने रन बना पाएंगे?
इंडिया करीब 350 तक रन बनाएगा, 350, और इंडिया जरूर जीतेगा इसमें. इंडिया फाइनल
There you go. It's always heart beating blue, bleeding blue. And that's the fervor outside the stadium, outside Wankhede. We will take a very quick break on that note. Back with more on the markets in just a bit.
Welcome back. Well, Indian team's doing well. The Nifty is almost at around 19,700. It's been a good trading session. When you say you're going to start off 200 points higher and you're going to end close to around 250 points higher, boy, it's been a very, very good trading session. Mayuresh Joshi joins us to help us out with some quick analysis. Hi, Mayuresh. Let's talk about a couple of stocks that are buzzing in the last few minutes in particular. Birlasoft. Stock has moved to the high point of the day. There was a change actually at the top when DK, who was leading the company, in fact, he pulled off. One would have thought the stock would have seen some bit of pressure, but actually it's nearly doubled from that price. I think 280, 290 was the price at that point of time. Today, it's around 620.
Afternoon, Nigel. I think mid-cap IT companies generally have delivered a very strong set of numbers. Even for Birlasoft, the expectations in terms of the corporate action that has happened was supposed to ensure there is some muted action. But I think numbers have been doing the talking for most of these stocks. You've seen sequential improvement in revenue growth, both in constant currency and dollar terms. EBIT margins, in spite of wage hikes, have largely held up for the first half. And again, commentary related to both pricing, related to contracts that they are executing and contracts that they are probably winning are expected to remain extremely steady, which means the EBIT margin guidance that they're probably assuring in the second half probably continues. Also, in lieu of order booking itself, I think the 1 million to 10 million ticket size across sectors, the order booking still remains intact, and therefore commentary on all these counts probably looks very, very positive. The only aspect, Nigel, for mid-cap IT companies compared to large caps would be the valuations and late-stage bases as we sit at markets with India. But yes, I think the momentum can very well continue with the assumptions of data points coming in from the US markets and expectations of a soft landing probably expected to take place in the markets itself, which means a lot of the momentum related as tailwinds for this sector, specifically mid-cap IT, might continue. So yeah, the momentum for Birlasoft, Sonata, KPI can very well continue.
Okay, that's mid-cap IT definitely doing well today. The other stock that's doing really well is Eicher Motors. Mayuresh, hi, good afternoon and season's greetings to you. Happy New Year. Must ask you about Eicher because, the earlier part of this year was all about the write-off of Eicher and competitive intensity. And it's there. I mean, there's so many premium bikes in that high-end segment now. But after the numbers, we saw some positive brokerage notes on this as well. What is your own house view on Eicher?
Survey, I think Shubha Deepavali and Happy New Year to you, Prashant, Nigel, and the entire team at TV18 as well, on the viewers watching this as well. For Eicher, yes, you're absolutely right. I think 4 quarters, 6 quarters back, with the competition coming in a quarter back, with launches that came in from the Hero stable, Bajaj, as well as the TVS stable, the expectations were that volumes will take a big hit. But the kind of product changes that they've probably done and the market shares that they are probably still holding on to, 125cc plus, 350cc plus, 500cc plus as well. I think both the product mix and the pricing that they've probably got is ensuring numbers are still holding out for Eicher. The second aspect, obviously, Surabhi, is the export markets. And the export markets are expected to do well for Eicher in the coming few quarters as well. Spares is around 10% of their overall revenues, which should continue at a very strong trajectory. And therefore, if you probably look at the first aspect and the first angle, as competition probably brews up even more with new platforms coming through, Eicher is still holding on to its ground. And there is sufficient amount of space in terms of how the patterns are probably changing for a higher CC engine and a product as well, specifically in urban and semi-urban areas, which means that there should be reasonable amount of appetite for a stock like Eicher. Margins should relatively hold up because a lot of issues that this sector face, both in terms of input costs, semiconductor issues, largely behind. And therefore, I think stable demand expectations along with stable revenue growth with stable margins should mean that operating leverage continues for Eicher. So yeah, Eicher, TVS is something that we remain positive on within the business.
Okay, Mayuresh, we'll keep the conversation short, just sort of coming up to market closing. But thanks for the wishes earlier, and of course, wishing you all the best as well. Thank you very much for joining us and running us through, all that you're tracking. Well, it's going to be a super close, 230 points higher, 19,673 is where we're end off, which is just under the 19,700 mark. So, this is a, there are two ways markets can do well, right? Which is start lower and then the market gets bid through the course of the day, which is the more likely sort of route that usually we take. The others, and this is a rarer kind of a day where you have a super strong start and actually the market doesn't give up and builds on it by a little bit. So today in that sense has been a sort of not so common day. It's been a rarer kind of day. I think the day's high, by the way, is 19,693. It's exactly the 61.8% retracement. And we are just about 15 points under it. So for all practical purposes, we are there. Small caps, of course, the strongest of the four indices. And that index closes at a new all-time high. Mid-cap index looking very strong. And lots of stocks we've discussed. And of course, tech had a special role to play, at least on the Nifty. Techem, Infosys, LTI, Mindtree, Wipro, TCS. These are 4 or 5 of the top gainers as far as the Nifty is concerned, apart from your iShares, which we were discussing, or a Hindalco or Tata Motors. But broader markets will be lots of, a burst of activity.
Oh, absolutely. I'm looking at some of the names here. I mean, some of these MSCI index inclusions, the likes of an Ahluwalia contracts, look at that stock, 17 to 18% higher. For many others, it was kind of priced in, so it was more of a muted reaction. Tata Motors DVR, for instance. But some of these smaller names, the ones that get added to the small cap indices, that's where there was plenty of action. Manappuram was the other one that was the star of today's trading action, 7% up on good numbers. Then you had Trident, again, that's result reaction, Ethos. These were all Narayana, Hridale, 4 to 5% up. And of course, let's not forget Siemens, which was the corporate event of the day with all those changes being announced by the parent.
Just one stock in the last few minutes was, Vedanta. The stock suddenly took a sharp downtake. I don't know whether the street is sensing something's in the works, but Vedanta is one stock that saw a sharp pullback, from the highs of the day. So that one, and KPIT Technologies as well. But as you said, Surabhi, it was otherwise a good session. Just thought I'll point both these two on because it seems the street sensed something particularly on Vedanta.
Yeah, actually, speaking of losers, should mention that Bajaj Finance has ended with a cut of about 2%. So let's see if there's anything new in terms of confirmed news or anything to the exchanges the company releases. Otherwise, no such problems for the Nifty. We have gone home with a gain of 232 points, retaining pretty much that entire gap up that we had at 950. Well, with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Closing Bell. Thank you very much for being with us, but don't go anywhere.